Welcome back, friend. Today we're talking about something that I've been kind of mulling over and leaning into practice and conceptualization myself as a working mom. And it is what I'm calling the art of cultivating consistency without anxiety and overwhelm. So this is the real for me on this. I care a lot about gaining a little traction and consistency in a few areas of my life. And it mostly has to do with myself, like things that I really want to carve out time to invest in, like physical health things, like time to have actually deeper explorations within myself, time to learn in a more concentrated way about topics that are relevant either to me as a person or to the professional development I'd like to invest in. And so all of these things require a significant kind of amount of time. They also require a little bit of a energy and a clarity of mind that aren't always a given, even when I have the time to do them. So I'm guessing here, my friend, that I'm not alone. I'm guessing that there are things in your life that you would like to, or you know that you need to invest more energy and attention in. And those are things that might have to do with like movement practices or more restorative, like healing physical practices or nutrition or lifestyle investment. Or maybe there are pockets of your life too, my friend, like things that you've been feeling anxious about, things that you've been feeling alone or lonely around, or things that are really important to you, but you haven't yet figured out like what you need to actually do and what it's going to take. And you haven't really figured out the time yet to invest in those things. And so I'm guessing this art of consistency and moving toward those things without experiencing complete overwhelm or anxiety on it just being another thing to do. So we're just not going to do it and it's going to go back into the pile of things that are undone. My guess is there is something in here for you too, my friend. So as I've been working with this mini dilemma that I've been in, and I can actually probably honestly say that I've been in a version of this dilemma ever since becoming a parent. It's just the details and the specifics of it change. Like the time constraints change, the energy constraints change, the schedule is continually changing and evolving as work changes, kiddo responsibilities and needs change. So I've been in a version of this for the last 8 years now. And so today I want to share with you one of the things that has really helped me with this ongoing dilemma over the past 8 years. And I come by the thing that has helped me with this dilemma kind of by accident as a human, but definitely informed by my 20 plus years of being a therapist. So this podcast is coming from, I'm so glad I have this information and I only have this information because of my clinical work. So it's my hope that the beginnings of this conversation is a gift to you. And if you're interested in more conversations, but deeper in like the next steps, then you're going to want to come into my Luminary Life Kit community because I'm developing and cultivating some deeper dives and community experiences that I can't wait to share with you when they're ready. But make sure you're opted into the email list or just keep listening to the pod because you'll learn more and more about how we can take the nuggets of these podcast conversations and then deepen them in meaningful and actionable ways. So the particular skill that I've been honing in over the last 8 years is what I'm calling the rubber band technique. It's not clinical or technical. It's just the way that I am calling it. It's the rubber band technique. And when I think about the qualities of a rubber band, is it keeps something together, but it also has an ability to stretch and extend a little bit, a medium amount, or even a lot. And then it has the ability to come back into a closer shape. So it keeps things together. It has a flexibility of stretch, but it never loses its tether. It still stays connected to whatever it's anchored to. And that is what I think working mamas need, is to cultivate their own rubber band capacity. So in this metaphor or framework, so to speak, we want to get clear about what we want to use our rubber band power to wrap itself around. Like, what is it that we're wrapping our arms or our attention or our sense of care around? And then in what ways will we need to cultivate the ability to flex and even look like we're moving away from the thing temporarily, but have not lost contact with it? Because the next opportunity we can, as a rubber band does, shrink back in and come back to a tight connection with what we care about. So I might be repeating myself here in a moment, but I want to highlight one more time the three aspects of the rubber band technique that are so important. Aspect number one is we have ability to choose to focus our attention to wrap itself around one thing that feels really meaningful and important. And then the second thing that's really important in this rubber band technique is that we have the ability to stretch and even move seemingly really far away to show ultimate flexibility, to make that circle, so to speak, of the rubber band even bigger, which can include more things in life that distract us, maybe typically from what it is that we've wrapped our arms around. But in this rubber band, even though it's bigger and maybe we've moved farther temporarily from the thing that we said we wanted to do, we have not lost contact with it. We have stayed in this ultimate stretchy rubber band capacity, still in relationship with it. And then we learn, number three, the soonest possible moment to unstretch and then let that rubber band lose elasticity and gain that original form. So we have the third practice of knowing the soonest possible moment that we can move out of that flex mode and into a reconnected place with the thing that we care about. So let me give you an example of that. I'll tell a little story. One of the things that is really important to me is carving in time to take care of my physical body in terms of like movement practices, because it makes a huge difference in my mental health. It helps me to offload stress, and it also is a symbol of friendliness with my body. It's me not trying to control or change or punish or make my body smaller. For me, movement practices is a gift. It's a gesture of connection and friendship with my body. And it's giving my body experiences that help it to feel relaxed and help it to feel empowered and help it to feel stronger and help it to offload some of the mental stress and physical tension that I accumulate throughout the day. And for some people, movement practices are just really easy to fit in. You like slot it in and then you just do it every day. For me, that's not the case. There are many competing priorities and fluctuating windows of time where it makes it more difficult for me to have like a consistency and a one and done experience with my physical movement. And I'm wondering if you can relate to that. And if you can't, if you're kind of like, oh, Cara, like I always do my movement practices, it's no big deal. I want you to think about something else in your life that's really important to you as you're listening to this example, personal example that I'm giving. I want you to think of something else that's really important to you that you are so glad when you do it, but for whatever reason, you have a hard time gaining consistency in that thing. There's maybe different reasons why. Maybe it's schedule, maybe it's a lack of clarity, maybe it's that thing is really difficult, even though it's important and you're not sure how to go about it or you need more support to do it. Whatever the case, I want you to keep in your mind as you're thinking about this personal example of mine, one thing that matters to you that you'd like to have a rubber band connection to because you're noticing you're not getting the consistency with it. And you're noticing that when you try to get really consistent, that rigidity of consistency gets really anxiety producing or overwhelming. So think about your own example, my friend, but maybe you could join me here. Most working moms I talk to would like to spend more time caring for their bodies, whatever way that is. And then the competing priorities, the changing needs of the family, especially with young kids. If you are not in a young kid stage of life, you don't really remember or understand how easily the well-meaning weekly schedule can get sidelined. And what I'm trying to get at here is that a lot of moms feel like they're just lazy or not disciplined or are lacking in some way because the things that they say are important never get done. And what I am trying to say is that that's not true. The season of life is intense and unpredictable and predictably going to be evolving and changing on an hour by hour, day by day basis. So what we need is a rubber band capacity to stay connected to the things that we care about, to flex and move away from them for maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days, but never let it go longer than it absolutely has to go back into this more closely connected rubber band shape. So for me, it's that physical movement. And what I have learned is that I can flex 1 or 2 days without giving that dedicated movement practice in and still be okay. But if I let it go beyond that, then I start to suffer. Then I start to be grumpy and irritable and feeling less energized and then feeling less connected to my body, which is not what I want. So the rubber band elasticity with retention of form quality that I have really been cultivating that I'm actually really proud of because I've been working hard at it for the last 8 years. So I've gotten some dexterity and some strength in this place just through repetition and practice, not through any specialness of my own, is that I've made a little commitment to myself to forecast the places in my schedule every day where I might be able to do some dedicated care for the movement needs of my body. And then I've practiced stretching that rubber band bigger to allow my mind to see short form practices, stretching practices versus more energetic practices, hot tub sessions or sauna sessions, as well as weightlifting sessions. I've learned to make that rubber band of flexibility extend itself into a more generous perspective about what counts and what's meaningful for my body. That way, if I arrive at a movement time that and not really have the energy to do what a different version of me would have thought I should do, I have a menu of practices that I can choose from that are all count toward taking care of my body. And it doesn't have to look like any one thing. And I've learned to stretch that rubber band out to include a day that just doesn't go the way that I thought. And instead of being stuck in a narrative about how essential it is that I get back to that practice the next day with a lot of shame or criticism or rigidity, but also without just forgetting that this is important to me and just letting the momentum of my kids' needs, my family schedules, my work demands, instead of getting lost in the momentum of all of that external pressure. I'm letting my connection to what I care about be really important to me so that at the next possible workable moment, I choose to get out of the everything else but me mode and then move back toward a shrinking rubber band quality of okay, I've arrived at that place that I forecasted last week when I might be able to get this movement experience in. I'm now going to let that kind of fidelity and steadfastness, that little shorter rubber band wrapping my arms around the thing that I care about. So I want you to think about your own thing that really matters to you. And I want you to think about how to apply this rubber band principle to that thing. what are your actions in step number one, which is wrapping a rubber band embrace around what's important to you? So usually that looks like forecasting in your schedule when you're going to take the time to move closer to that thing, whether it's researching that thing or getting help with that thing or just engaging in activities that support that thing. That is step number one, is wrapping your rubber band around it. And for me, that looks like just blocking out the time in my schedule, forecasting every day in my schedule for the next week or two when I think I'm going to be able to do that. Step number two is knowing and forecasting that even as you're trying to maintain steadfastness to that thing, that the life of a working mom is constantly in flux, is constantly being manipulated and moved and influenced by outside sources that we both can predict and that we can't predict on a daily basis. We don't predict when our kid gets sick. We don't predict when something changes that we need to accommodate now as a mom. Working moms are the most agile and strong humans I know. They have to hold a lot and they have to change how they're conceptualizing, how they're holding it on a day to day, week by week basis. So, because that reality is what it is, step number two is so important that you develop this ultimate flex and stretch. And that while you're moving away, like I want you, if you're not watching this, to imagine me pulling two ends of a rubber band apart from each other. And now my hands are coming further away from each other. When you see that you're getting further and further away from the thing that you wanted to do to care for yourself, what I would like for you to do is to hold the natural discomfort that comes from that with this rubber band mindset where you're not making meaning about yourself, you're not being overly critical about yourself, and you're also not getting rigid and anxious and pressured and irritated and agitated, but you're also not getting caught up in a story about what it means about you being so far away from the thing that you care about, because I want you to see that this circle of connection is still there, that you're still able, as you're flexing and moving for ease, you're still tethered ultimately to the thing that you care about. And you can remind yourself and you can start to talk to yourself in this self-friendly way of, at the soonest possible place, I will re-engage. At the soonest possible place, I will do a version of that thing that ultimately matches and meets my energy and my attention and the constraints I have. I will find that place to reconnect with myself in a meaningful way. So this step number two, flex, looks like you talking to yourself on the inside in a really intentional way, that you're meeting the moment of distance from the thing that you care about with compassion, with mindfulness. You're aware of it. You're not becoming careless and losing it, but you're being really caring in how you talk to yourself about that and how you encourage yourself and how you coach yourself to attend to that flex in not a critical way, but in a caring and conscientious way. And then you don't stay in that flexed out space indefinitely. That's also the third skill, is so important, that you look for and you prioritize yourself. It's really easy to get stuck in that flexed out, accommodating everything and everybody else mode. You're looking for the earliest possible place, the simplest and easiest gesture that you can make that starts to show that rubber band starting to come back to form. So sometimes that rubber band comes back to form all at once, and sometimes it comes in little meaningful steps that you take yourself back into that place where you're closer to and engaging in the thing that really matters to you. And guess what, my friend? As a working mom and as a human, we're going to want to get that rubber band going back and forth continually. Sometimes it's a day-to-day basis. Sometimes it's every 3 or 4 days. And sometimes we can get stronger periods of time where we feel like that rubber band is nice and snug and not stretched out too much. But to, again, anticipate that you'll have times of that rubber band stretching way out again. And now you know what to do. You know to stay connected to the thing that you care about. You know to stay really friendly and encouraging and conscientious when you're way stretched out. And you have learned to look for the soonest opportunity to just take even a small step toward that thing that you care about. So I'm proud to say that even though if every week looks a little bit different, even if what I had thought was going to happen in one day doesn't happen, I'm really proud of the commitment I've made to my body to wrap my rubber band arms around this soft animal of a body, this changing body, this middle-aged body. And I'm doing a lot of things to stay in close relationship with it, to try to give it the care that it needs. And it doesn't look the same every day. And sometimes it doesn't look the way that I want it to, but I have learned how to keep that rubber band secured to my body so that it can stretch, but then it can also come back close in. What are you thinking now, my friend? Can you find yourself in this analogy? Can you think about each part of that rubber band process? The wrapping your arms around the thing that matters, the stretching and knowing when you're going to stretch and staying friendly to yourself, but yet tethered and committed to the thing that you care about, but friendly in the distance that you might get from it for a day, 2 days, 3 days. And can you harness in that dedication, that willingness to move back toward a thing? Can you get that third positioning of bringing yourself back into connection with that thing that matters to you and giving it another go? And then knowing that you're going to be giving it another go and doing that rubber band practice over and over and over again until your season of life shifts and maybe consistency can look a little bit different. As always, thank you for your time. And if you're wanting to learn more about some of those deeper connection points I'm going to be cultivating for our working mom community, just drop me a comment or drop me a note and I'll let you know. Be well and take good care of yourself.